Oh, holy cats! I am filled with pizza! This is COFOH Live Undead. I am your host, Daniel Crosier, and I am joined by the amazing Clay Adams of Fried Comics. Oh!
You have something on my face?
Clay, how are you?
I'm doing great after that. That's a fantastic intro. I feel pumped. I was falling asleep before, but now you kind of woke me up.
Yes, more energy, more killing power.
I will try to match your energy as best I can.
That's okay. As the conversation goes, I quickly subside, and then you just kind of run the show and do what you want.
That sounds great. Awesome. I'm going to hypnotize the audience to send money.
Yes, that's right. Send us more money. These aren't the droids you're looking for. They're over there.
Send money now.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, where is your Patreon account? Where's that?
I don't have one. I have an OnlyFans. Is that okay?
Oh, you're one of those. Okay.
I'm one of the. I'm the one sending you the OnlyFans links.
Oh, fantastic!
Every night.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for it to come up in the comment section. So let's go.
Okay, great. Yeah.
But yeah. Fried Comics is fantastic. You guys are doing a kick-ass job, Clay.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and how you got into comics.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. But then I moved to New York. I spent 15 years in New York, and that's where I met Alexander O. Philippe, who is my co-writer at Fried Comics. And he and I bonded over a love of Preacher, the Garth Ennis, Steve Dillon book. And we just love that. So I've been reading comics since I was a kid. I mean, I started when I was very young, and I think Alexander too was reading, but he was like, he was over in Europe, so he was reading like, the fancy stuff. But I was reading
Mobius.
Yes, exactly. I was reading, Batman and Superman and a lot of Alan Moore.
Cool.
And yeah, when I went to college, he and I met, and I thought, wow, what a sophisticated European. And he quickly proved me wrong. And so I introduced him to Preacher. I took him to Midtown Comics. I literally dragged him in and was like, you got to read this. And we bonded over that. And shortly after college, we just decided, well, let's start, let's start writing together. So we started writing screenplays.
Nice.
And at some point we came up, so we had written a couple of screenplays, and then we came up with this idea that was like so insane and so over the top and so Preacher-esque that we were like, well, maybe this is not a movie. Maybe this sounds like a comic book.
Okay. Nice.
And so that was PBOW. I don't know if this is a family show. If I can say the name.
Not a family show.
Okay. Good. It's so that's an acronym. It stands for Pregnant Bitches of War. There it is. Yeah, that's the first issue cover.
There we go. There's the PBOW.
There we go. Very, very classy logo placement there.
Yes. Very much.
Yes, that's the first issue cover by Rob Guillory of Chew fame.
Yeah, I love Chew.
He did such a great job with that cover, and all the little pregnancy jokes and stuff in the background. That's all him. He filled in there. And yeah, that was really our first foray into making comics was the idea for PBOW.
Nice.
And so we wrote the first script, And it took us years to like put it together to come, because we came up with the title and we were like, this is so dumb. What a dumb title. Why don't we try to make something out of this and like try to make it good? And it just sort of took us like we were new to comics, new to making comics. So it took us a while to like to get that pitch together and to sort of figure out what the arc was and the characters and all of that stuff. And then we had to like try to find an artist. And so while we were doing that, we took this other story called Deadskins, which we had written as a screenplay. And we decided, there we go. That's the cover by Takashi Okazaki, nice. Mr. Afro Samurai. And he did a fantastic, phenomenal job.
That is cool. So cool.
And yeah, so while PBOW was kind of coming together, we were like, well, we've got this other story that's already like broken out. Like we have the story done from beginning to end. The script exists. We now need to put this together. And so we found an artist for that. And so Deadskins actually became our first comic then.
Cool.
I think it beat PBOW, just by a hair, because that's the one we were like coming up with on the fly. Yeah. But we released them kind of both at the same time, and we thought we were going to be bajillionaires selling 99-cent downloads on our website.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever tried to sell 99-cent downloads on a website, but you got to sell an awful lot of them to become a bajillionaire.
It's not happening. It's a marathon.
Yes, it's a marathon. It's like 4 marathons,
right?
Times 20.
Oh, there you go.
To the nth degree. So yeah, we very quickly learned that was a really terrible business model, and that's when we jumped into Kickstarter for the first time with a book called Red Xmas. And we kickstarted That's the One. We kickstarted the first. You're so quick on the draw there. I love it. You're ready to go. I'm teeing them up and you're like,
right. I'm knocking them down, baby.
Knocking them down, baby. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, so we did the first issue of that in 2014. That you're showing right there is the Scout Comics edition that just came out late last year, and that's brand new. That's totally different from the book we put out on Kickstarter. Totally different artist, art team, just completely different from top to bottom. I mean, the story's the same. Some of the dialogue has been punched up and modernized.
Okay.
But that was our first foray into crowdfunding.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was like, okay, well then this makes a whole hell of a lot more sense than trying to sell 99-cent downloads. So so then we decided to lean heavily into that. So we finished serializing Red Xmas on Kickstarter. We have released a trade of PBOW. We're on a second volume of that. We've and now we're collecting. Yes, so that's from the second volume of PBOW. This is our James Bond homage.
Nice.
So yes, it's our Man with the Golden Gun homage, and yeah, I could talk you through all of those characters if you're interested, but yes, a lot of insanity in that book. This is a very over the top horror comedy.
Yeah, it looks it. You got the guy with the sad sack over his face, and you've got one of these PBOW ladies, in a bikini, pregnant and kicking ass.
That's right. So so the guy in the sad sack, that's the Exalted Father. He's the bad guy. He's the main villain.
Okay.
So he's but he's got that Bond role, I guess, there in the poster.
Yeah, the guy, kind of cleaning his hook. I think he's the most down to earth one.
Yeah, for sure. He's the most grounded, like realistic character, and that's the man with the metal dick. Right,
oh, nice.
Yes. So this is like a first appearance of the man with the metal dick. He's going to play a big role in this second volume. I feel like if you just tuned in, we're like 10 minutes in and we're already talking about crazy stuff.
As we should, you're just going to have to jump in with us and have some fun.
Awesome. Great. I love it. Yeah, this book is kind of insane. So it's like 6 pregnant women plucked from the time stream by inventor Nikola Tesla. They accidentally go back in time and kill a young Hitler and make the world worse. Ooh. And now with Tesla acting as Charlie to their angels, they must save the world from a hell of their own creation before their water breaks.
Right.
That's our ticking clock there on that book. And it's truly insane. It's every bit as insane as it sounds. It's if you like Preacher or The Boys, over the top action horror, this is a fun book for people. And then this second volume, things really kind of get even more out of control.
It sounds absolutely, bonkers, but it seems like it's kind of that independent, B movie flair as well.
Yeah, that's sort of what we were going for, especially with that title. So Alexander and I, I guess we did a lot of talking about sort of what we wanted Fried Comics to be. Mm-hmm. And we wanted, definitely, like, from the comics perspective, we wanted that sort of Preacher vibe. And from like a, not that we're films, but just what we could take from a film was something like a Quentin Tarantino, over the top Kill Bill. Yeah. That sort of like hyper violent sort of popcorn movie, like the name Fried Comics really, I think, sums up the ethos, because it's like our comics are like a fried meal, that you get at a greasy diner. They're they may not be particularly good for you, but but hopefully they go down easy,
it tastes great.
It tastes great, right? With a nice soda. So we wanted this to have like no nutritional value, just pure entertainment, empty carbs.
Yeah.
I mean, if it makes you think, I guess that's not a terrible thing, but we're not setting out to make you think.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty fun and pretty ridiculous. There's so many different ways you could go about that, if that's the mission statement, right?
Right.
So many different areas to explore. And let me share the awesome Glenn Fabry cover, because this one's I think one of my favorites.
Right. So Preacher obviously was a big influence. Yeah. I've dropped that several times. So when we were able to get him to do the cover, that was like mind blowing. It did not come cheap, but I'm happy to say that that's an actual painting that exists, and he sent that to Alexander. Alexander has it in storage somewhere. He just sold his house, so it's in storage somewhere. But yeah, that's a real painting. It is it's phenomenal. Yeah.
That's awesome. It seems like for at least with the covers, you're able to approach these top tier talents. Let me share also Ben Templesmith's, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Before we went live, I completely screwed up his name. I forgot it.
It's okay. There are a lot of names to remember. I barely remember my name half the time. Ben Templesmith, he came through with this amazing cover. I mean, we've been so fortunate to have people say yes to these covers, and just really some incredible talent involved in the books. It's just I mean, just looking at this blows me away every time. I mean, it's and he sent. And he sent over like 4 different versions of this, like with different color schemes and everything. And this is sort of the one that we settled on. And it really kind of set the template for what we're doing on Kickstarter with our variant covers. So this was a variant. The Takashi Okazaki was the standard cover. Ben Templesmith was the variant. And we've kind of continued that with like Alex Cormack doing a variant kind of in the same style. Brian Silverbacks is working on a variant for the final issue, which is going to go live here in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And it keeps this vibe that Ben came up with. So he really set the template. And then, on the standard covered side, so did Takashi Okazaki. That sort of red, black, and gray kind of look. That's how we've continued with like Joe Mulvey doing the 3 and 4. And then issue 5 might be a little bit too early for me to say who that is, but she's fantastic.
Cool.
And she's going to follow that kind of model.
That's awesome. Yeah, the artwork is just outstanding. When you're approaching these guys, hey, to do a cover, are you just like pitching them the story, or how do you go about doing something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of like introduce yourself. I mean, it was tougher in the beginning, right? Like when we didn't have anything to show, and, and we had no track record to speak of. You know what I mean? So we were just a couple of guys saying, "Hey, we'll give you money. Will you draw us a cover?" And some people, like I know Alex had some people on his wish list that it didn't work out, for whatever reason. And but the comics industry is pretty welcoming. It's pretty it's pretty open. I mean, the internet is amazing because you can find almost anybody, and you just send a nice little letter of introduction and say this is what we'd like to do, and would you do it for us? How much would it cost? And thankfully most people got back to us, and now it's a little easier because we do have a little bit of a track record, at least with Kickstarter and some various other things. So we can, we can at least, I guess, present ourselves in the best light. You know what I mean? And hope that will at least get somebody kind of enthusiastic that like, oh, this might be a project I really want to be a part of.
Oh, that's cool. Now, with all your titles, with Pregnant Bitches of War and Dead Skins, are they kind of an intersecting universe, or you just kind of keep those separate?
Oh, they are a universe. It's funny that you say that. Yes, it's like we planned this. That's a perfect question. So yes, it's a totally intersecting universe, and we didn't necessarily plan it that way.
Okay,
but it's kind of grown into that. Like, so the first 2 titles we released were Dead Skins, and then the first volume of PBOW.
Yeah,
and we knew when we started plotting out PBOW, the second volume started to kind of intersect with Red Xmas.
Okay.
And then when we got to the third volume, we were like, well, wait a minute. What if that third volume was a prequel to Dead Skins?
Ooh.
So then now they're all kind of like intersecting. And so what's really cool about where we are in PBOW, like we've dropped some hints, like in the back of Red Xmas, we do little backup stories with Frida, who is our hostess character. And so we've kind of turned her into a recurring backup story. And so we've dropped like some hints about the intersecting universe. And so we've had characters show up and they've kind of interacted there. And so now what we're doing with PBOW, the second volume, this is really where like it's starting to kind of all come together. You're really starting to see the Red Xmas crossover with PBOW. And then, one of these days when we finish this volume and then we get to the third volume, it's really going to tie together with Dead Skins. I was just talking to Alexander about this the other day about how like, then this will be like a full opus. Like we will have told, this full big, huge story. that all intersects. So anyway, the latest issue of PBOW, the man with the metal dick, that backup story also has some hints about the intersecting universe.
Cool.
And like there's some cool like Easter eggs, literal Easter eggs, because one of them is the Easter Bunny, who is a character in Red Xmas, but he appears in a scene in PBOW, like in the main story, but then in the backup story you figure out what he's doing there, and it's the fried diner, which we have created as I guess I don't know, it's a tulpa. We're trying to make it real, like a real thing. But Fried Comics in our fictional universe is centered on the Fried Diner. Frida's the hostess, the waitress. Alexander and I are co-chefs here, and it's like it's this nexus of all realities. So it's like at the center of the multiverse where all these characters interact and come together. So we're actually like part of it too. It's all very meta. Did I confuse the issue? That was a lot of information.
Wait, you know, when you make that that association with a Fried Diner, it's like, it's your TARDIS, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's that nexus where all things pass, and Frida's your Stan Lee, except for, Stan Lee existed real, but he could also hop into, these comics and stuff. And it sounds like you guys kind of do the same thing too.
Yeah, that's what, we were, so in the Frida backup stories, we were very influenced by the, what was it? Munden's Bar from Grimjack. I don't know if you remember that old series. It's John Ostrander.
I remember Grimjack, but I'm not familiar with the bar. No.
Yeah, so it's John Ostrander and I think it was Tim Truman who was the original artist. They created Grimjack together, and there was this bar there. It was Munden's Bar that was like in the city somewhere, and like, so the characters would like visit it, but it was a backup story. Then they would do backup stories set in Munden's Bar, and that's where like all this crazy stuff happened. So we were very influenced by that. All the first comic stuff, especially when we were coming up with the Fried universe in like 2013 when we were brainstorming all this stuff. I was reading a lot of first comics though. So Grimjack and the Badger.
I
Nexus.
remember. Yeah. The Nexus and that's all, Mike Barron.
Mike Barron. Yeah.
Fort Collins.
Yeah. He's a Denver guy or a Colorado guy. Yeah.
So, and then, he was doing Nexus with Steve Rude. Right. Yeah.
Man, I love those books. They're so great. Nexus is just phenomenal. Phenomenal. And the Badger, like, I think the first 20 issues of the Badger are just gold.
Nice.
Just gold. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, Mike's completely generous guy, sits there, talks about craft and everything, and just an outstanding writer.
Yeah, so that guy's so good.
That's cool. Well, it's so cool that you have these remarkable influences too. When you were talking about like the multiverse of Fried comics, I kept thinking, it's like, oh my god, I'd hate when you're dropping those Easter eggs, and it's like you got to keep all those plot points. It's like I'd hate to see what your wall of ideas looks like with the Post-it notes and stringing them. It's like, yep, this affected this affected that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like it's all up here. I've got a million documents on my desktop. I wish my walls were all like a beautiful mind or whatever.
Yeah. But your son, your kids would probably be sitting there. It's like, oh my gosh, Dad's trying to solve a murder.
Dad's losing it. Yeah, exactly. I'm like the dude in Saw trying to figure out who Jigsaw is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's a lot to keep up with for sure, and but we always try to make it so that if you're brand new to Fried Comics,
Right.
that you've you can read any story and like you'll understand it. It's not like DC Comics or something like this where you gotta pick up everything they publish to understand one story. That's not at all what we're going for. It's more that it's like, if you read them all, you will catch all these references and Easter eggs, and you will see how they all interconnect. And hopefully that will be a very cool experience for you.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty awesome. Well, how many books, do you have right now? Because
yes,
I think anybody could collect all of them, right?
Yeah, we got a ton. So there are 5 in volume 1 of PBOW. There are 5 issues.
Okay.
We did 5 issues of Deadskins.
Nice.
Then we did 4 issues of Red Xmas, but one of those was double size, so it's really like 5 issues. And then PBOW, this next volume is going to be 4. And then probably another 4 for another volume, and then maybe like one thing to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
I should point out, because I did mention that Scout Comics came out with that first issue last year. That's part of this new initiative that they're doing called Nonstop, where they release a first issue in shops, and then a few months later they release an entire trade. So you can just binge the whole story. So they keep the first issues because, collectors like the first issues.
Right.
And then they put out a trade for you to just binge the whole story. So the trade is coming out, I think in like November. I don't have preview codes yet, but I think it'll be available in November. That's going to collect the whole story. Like I said, it's 4 issues. One is oversized, so it's like 5 regular issues.
Oh, that's
awesome. A nice meaty book. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Right now it seems like the collector's market when it comes to print is in those collected formats, in those trades.
Yeah. And I think that's what Scout was figuring out, is that a lot of their books, like, and not just their books. I mean, I think like DC and Marvel has the same thing too. It's like you release a first issue and that's huge, and then like everybody waits for the trade.
Okay. Yeah. No,
so they're like, well, we're just gonna cut out. Why print all the other stuff? We'll just put out the trade.
Well, and I think with today's young readers too, it's like, hey, we want the whole story. Give it to us all at once.
Totally. Yeah.
It's not like like when I was growing up, I loved going every week to the grocery store and seeing what the new floppy was.
Right.
And I was collecting Uncanny X-Men and Detective Comics and Batman and stuff. And
right.
And I couldn't wait for that. But I totally get it today, especially with like the way media is right now. You go to Netflix, you want a whole season, bam, it's there the same day.
There it is. Yeah.
Amazon's got a different model. It's the floppy model, right? Where they release like maybe 2 or 3 episodes to get you hooked, get that drug going.
Right.
And then it's 1 episode a week until it's done.
I think there's a lot to be said for that model, because you're talking about it a lot longer, rather than when it's all dropped and you binge it. Everybody's talking about it for a weekend, and then it's easier to kind of forget about. So I'm old school in the sense that I like the old school model, but the way comics are made, it's changed so much so that people really do expect to get that trade and are okay, and even I guess at this point prefer having just one story in a trade as opposed to a collected edition with a bunch of different stories. Like comics used to, every issue would give you a full story, and even if they continued, you felt like you got like a whole story, whereas now like the whole thing. Whereas like now comics, like one issue might just be a chase scene, and in the context of a trade paperback, like, and you're reading it all the way through, it works. It maybe doesn't necessarily work in the context of a floppy, but but I think the expectations for how we read these things have changed, and everybody wants the trade and wants the big story. I don't know that we're going back to the other thing, but we're trying with Fried to really give people a just a full experience every issue.
Nice.
Something that feels like you got a satisfying chunk of story, especially as we're serial. Like, we're not, most of our stuff, we're not serializing at the comic shop. So we're not there every month. We're on Kickstarter every few months.
Right.
And so there are going to be bigger gaps. And I think probably at this point, everybody just, lets their stuff pile up and reads it all together like it's a trade anyway. But if you did read it one at a time, I think you'd get a satisfying chunk of story. That's our goal, at least.
That's cool. So, do you find that you're finding your audience more on Kickstarter?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah. Well, it's weird. It's like, because I think, Red Xmas probably, the number one that Scout released, that probably reached a whole lot more people than any of our Kickstarters.
Nice.
But for us, Kickstarter is where the money is. So, so it's kind of like a weird dynamic. So yeah, I mean, the readership is there in the shops for sure. And we're planning on getting more stuff out there. But in terms of Webtoons, we've had stuff up on Webtoons.
Yeah.
And you can see what the numbers are, and we've had decent success on there, but we've never really tried driving traffic, running Facebook ads to drive people to the Webtoons to get the readership up. So yeah, I mean, Kickstarter is its own thing, it's its own ecosystem, and the people there are super passionate and super supportive. So we really have found a fan base on Kickstarter, and for us, that's been great. Aside from my OnlyFans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, everybody tune in a little later tonight for a little, I guess, bedroom reading action.
That's right. That's right. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be hot. Yeah. Oh,
well,
dear.
you gotta put me through college.
That's true. You're still paying those bills.
Still paying those bills. Yep.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about PBOW number 2? Cover, or that's the cover final. That's what.
Yeah. So this is that's the regular cover. So the one you showed earlier, the man with the metal dick, that was our variant. So it was our Bond homage.
Okay. Variant.
So this, yeah, I probably should have talked about this one first, because then the man with the metal dick would make a whole lot more sense. So, so the first volume of PBOW, I told you they've gone back in time. They've accidentally killed Hitler, and now somebody worse has come in to sort of take Hitler's place, and the world. It's sort of thinking about the butterfly effect that you've heard about, from Jurassic Park. Like if one thing happens, a butterfly flutters its wings over here, how does that affect, everything that happens over here?
Yeah.
So we took them through all kinds of crazy adventures in volume 1. In volume 2, when it opens, the Exalted Father, and so that's him without his sad sack potato sack on his head. He's like this half human, half cyborg, or half robot guy. He's obsessed with the PBOWs, because there's this legend about these women in back in World War I who mysteriously showed up out of nowhere at this castle and kicked ass and took names, and it's a legend that's grown. It's not really something that happened, these women, but it's grown up based around, they accidentally killed Hitler. So some people did die, but they weren't these badass scary people that the Exalted Father has heard about all these years, right? And it's this legend. And so now a lot of time has passed since then, and the PBOWs disappeared because Tesla was going to send them back to their time period, but instead he just sent them to the future of the same timeline. So now they've shown up present day, if any of this is making sense. Now they've shown up present day, and the world is like totally messed up, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's really kind of like where the adventures begin. And when they show up, it creates this panic in the Exalted Father, because it's part of the legend of the PBOWs is that they were going to return and destroy the Imperium, right? Like it would mean his downfall. So now he's got to destroy them. Nice. And so he's consulting with this oracle who may or may not be Santa Claus, and he's consulting with this oracle. And he's asking like to prophesize like what's going to happen next now that they're back. And so the oracle tells him that there's going to be this big fight at Castle Neuschwanstein, the site of their first appearance.
Cool.
The dead will rise, and the man with the metal dick will betray you.
Oh, yeah.
And so now the Exalted Father is what a dick, right? So the Exalted Father is now obsessed with finding the man with the metal dick. So he's got all of his soldiers running around with their pants down, so that he can see who's got the metal dick, who's gonna screw him over. And yes, so this issue, that beautiful double page spread you showed is a representation by our series artist Fabio Ramacci and Ilaria Chioca, the colorist. That's their almost like biblical representation. You've got the man with the metal dick up on the mountain, like Moses with the gleaming crotch, and the Exalted Father is cowering before him, and then he's surrounded by the PBOWs. And that on the left-hand corner, that's Gustav. Gustav is a dick-eating alligator that we met in the last issue, and he plays very heavily into the origin story of the man with the metal dick.
He likes his brats.
He does. He does. Yes, indeed.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my God. It's fun how ridiculous this is.
It's like I said, it's totally over the top. It's totally nuts. And the art team, like Fabio and Ilaria, have like just really run with it. They take all the crazy stuff Alexander and I write, and they just spin it in the gold. It's just so great. And so that we wanted to do a double page, the wraparound cover, like. Mm-hmm. Because for my childhood, those were like, that always signified this is a special issue. If you got the wraparound cover, boy, right, you were in for something amazing, right? Yes. So that's like, JLA 200, had that beautiful cover by George Perez, and, all those other anniversary issues and stuff. We really wanted to do something special for this first appearance, and that's what we came up with.
That's so cool. Now, you along with Fried Comics, you're also editing and curating other projects too. I've got here with me your Nightmare Theater. So
that's right,
for all to see in all its glory. I mean, look at how thick this is. So many awesome stories coming out of this thing.
That's a 272 page book.
Man, what was that process like?
It was pretty intense. I mean, we started putting it together, like really planning it a year in advance.
Okay.
And we were really thinking about, what kind of book we wanted to do, what the theme was, who we wanted to reach out to. And so I say we, this is not Fried Comics. This is with my co-editor on this book is David Schrader. Nice. Better known as D.E. Schrader, writer of Baby Badass from Action Lab.
Nice. Oh, cool.
And David and I, we've been working in comics for a little bit. We've gotten to know a lot of awesome people, and we just wanted to invite them to contribute to this love letter to horror movies. Yeah. And that theme was really David's idea. but we knew we wanted to do an anthology. I said horror because horror is an evergreen genre.
It's so accessible.
It's so accessible. You know, it always sells. People always want horror. So he suggested, let's make it a love letter to horror movies. And so we really targeted people that we knew could turn in a great story, do it on a deadline, and you know, put together a professional team. And so we started reaching out to people like in May of last year, April of last year, somewhere around there. And stories started coming in over the summer. And I think once people, like, we had a little private Facebook group where people were posting their progress. And I think once people saw the quality of the work that was coming in, people were like, oh, I've got to up my game. You know, it then became like this internal competition to like, who's going to make the best story. Yeah. And I think that really helped the book come together. Cool. And we divided it, you know, another one of David's brilliant ideas was that he wanted to make it like a film festival. So, yeah, so we divided it into sections. Like he came up with all these great headers. And of course I can't pull anyone now, but it's like, you know, there's like, frightful features or something like that, right? So those are like the longer stories. And then there's like shorts, oddities, and cartoons, you know. Mm-hmm. Those are for some of the more comical or offbeat kind of things. Then there was like, one was a section on monsters. So if it was like specifically monster movies or like B movies, I mean, he really did a great job of thinking that through. And then it was kind of like up to me to see like, okay, how are all these stories going to flow into one another inside these categories? Yeah. And we got some just amazing stories out of there and fantastic. I mean, I always joke that with this book, like I think of that Kids in the Hall song, These Are the Daves I Know. Because it's like it's David Schrader and David Pepos and David Avalone and Dave Dwanch. You know, it's like it's mostly people named Dave and then like a few other people. Right.
Yeah. Well, you know, come dinner time, it's like, you know, all you got to do is yell Dave and everybody comes running.
Everybody comes running. That's right. Yeah, exactly. But we did have some non-Daves, very talented non-Daves, Nicole Dandria, Carla Nappi, me. I wrote a few stories in there. It's a great group of people. I figured out, you know, I took the time to put this book together. I may as well take advantage of it.
Right.
You know? Why not?
So, yeah, with something like this, you know, what's it like to work outside of, you know, the Fried Comics, you know, universe? You know, what was it that what kind of stories that you wanted to tell here that you haven't Fried?
I think for me it was because Fried leans so heavily on the horror comedy.
Okay.
That we, you know, I wanted to be sure that for Nightmare Theater, anything I contributed would be less horror comedy and more just straight horror. Okay. And so I wanted to flex those muscles. Yeah. That was an appeal. And then there was also the appeal of like working in a shorter format, rather than telling this big epic story over 5 issues. Right. You know, can I tell a story in 6 pages?
Yeah.
But still make it feel like you've gone on a journey.
Yeah.
And so that was a cool challenge. And then, you know, I don't think they're all like, you know, dry or anything like that, but it's not horror comedy. It really, really is just horror. And that's just what I wanted to do. So I've got a story in there. So on the cover that you showed, Kyle Roberts, who's a fantastic artist. Yeah. So he drew 3 characters there. That's Shelley Poe Stoker, the Welder, and Eerie Aaron. David Schrader wrote the origin story for Shelley Poe. I wrote the origin story for the Welder and Eerie Aaron. Ooh. And Eerie Aaron has she's got a cool little, like, I think it's a 6-pager. It's kind of like The Omen or Rosemary's Baby. It's kind of like one of those stories.
Nice.
And it's dark, man. It's really dark. I wrote it on a day I was feeling particularly angsty about everything that was going on in the world.
Sure.
And it was, it was dark, but I think an effective horror story. I think it works on a few levels and is really just horrific. I'm really proud of that story with great art by Mick Byers.
That's so cool. Well, like writing something like that, having like a lot of anxiety, it feels good to kind of burn that energy into something productive, right?
Absolutely. And it really was. It was a day that I just felt like there's nothing I can do about any of this except this, except the typing. And that's,
and with something like this, like you're talking about how it's in this film festival type of format or feel, with an anthology like that, which a film festival very much is like an anthology. It's a mishmash of all these different perspectives and talents and conveyances.
Absolutely.
Going that route too, like seeing that in would you ever like consider taking those ideas and making them into a film? As we all know, your partner is a filmmaker.
Yeah. Well, quite possibly. We'll see. So Alexander is, he's a documentary filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
He could make a hell of a documentary about Fried. I'll tell you that much.
Right.
But he, I don't know. I don't know where his passions lie in terms of like making a narrative feature, like a fiction, a fictional film. But I'll say this: if he ever wants to do it, he and I should talk. We're going to use this YouTube stream to put a little pressure on him to.
That's right, Alexander. You've got like 50,000 viewers, which is a completely made up number that I just did. But damn it, we're going live, so I can't edit this out. Anyway, Alexander, the next time we see you in a room, Clay and I are going to corner you and I don't know, get you drunk maybe, because I'm too sweet of a guy. I don't like to intimidate.
I'll be the heavy. It's
okay. You be the heavy. I'll be the good cop.
I can be mean when I wanna.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, we'll get them drunk and have them sign away on the dotted line. But I think you guys are creating such an amazing universe, and as you mentioned too, like only in comic book does this so much of this stuff really exist.
I mean, I keep thinking that some of this stuff, like particularly PBOW, like I feel like that could be an Adult Swim show, like
right.
Something along the lines of Rick and Morty or something like that, just an animated, totally over the top kind of thing.
Right.
So, like I don't always necessarily think it has to be live action,
right.
And animation could be cool too. Deadskins could for sure be a film. That definitely has a filmic arc for sure.
Nice. That's so cool. And you've got more projects on the horizon that you're going to be coming out on Kickstarter in the next few weeks to a month or so, right?
Yeah. So I had hoped to be live by now. It didn't happen, but it's the 5th and final issue of Deadskins we're putting on Kickstarter. Okay. So we collected all the other ones 2 issues at a time. So you saw volume 1 and 2, volume 3 and 4 put together in nice big, like 60-page chunks. This is going to be the final issue. It's only that issue is only 30 pages, but we've got a backup story, one of the Frida stories that was published in one of the very first Red Xmas books. Features characters from Deadskins. So we've got that. We've got some behind the scenes material. A lot of stuff for the Fried Comics fan going in there to beef this up and make it a nice 48-page book with a spine. That's going to be coming soon. You can get information on it if you go to friedcomics.com/free. You can sign up for the online letter column, which is what I call our newsletter, because it's not a newsletter, it's not a mailing list. Like I'm not interested in talking at you. I'm interested in talking with you. And so we kind of do it like an online letter column, like comic books used to have, like real honest to God letter columns. You can sign up there, friedcomics.com/free. You'll get all the information about when the book is going to launch. But if you did want to go ahead and check out some of the other ones, you can go to bit.ly/Deadskins.
Nice.
And that'll take you to the latest Deadskins campaign. And you'll see a button that says late pledges. You'll be able to pledge for the book. You can check it out and get all caught up before we launch. Hopefully here in a few weeks. And then once that launch gets going, you can buy the whole series in one big pop.
That is so awesome. Yeah. Clay, I want to say thanks for being so generous with your time and coming on and talking about what Fried Comics is and all the cool projects you've got going on. Deadskins, bitches of war, or pregnant bitches of war. Sorry, and of course, Red Xmas.
Red Xmas, yeah.
Yeah,
I left. I didn't mean to leave that out, and that could be a movie too. That could be a great movie too. So if anybody's listening,
there you go. Well, and Santa Claus, makes so many appearances in a lot of horror movies.
That's true.
Well as Christmas films,
Yeah, exactly. There's good crossover there.
Yeah, it's either way on both sides of that aisle. It's festive.
Totally. Yes, that's what we're here for.
That's right. And looks like our friend Steven just chimed in. He says hi.
Hi, right back at you. Thanks for watching.
So everybody out there, after this broadcast, go to frightcomics.com and go and support independent art and read all the Fried Comics catalog. There's so many good things coming out from you guys, so we can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. This has been a blast. I'm sorry I couldn't keep that high energy up from the beginning, like a wrestling match.
No. You kept it going. Like I said, I would wane a little bit. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Good point. And then I come in as the closer. And there we go.
Good deal.
But stick around for a few minutes after we sign off, Clay. But for everybody out there, thanks so much for tuning in. And to our sponsors at Hellfire Entertainment for rebroadcasting us on your social media platforms. And then, of course, our friends at Mutiny Cafe. If you're going to start a revolution, make sure you're caffeinated. And our friends at Groovy TV. We lost Groovy himself last year, but we carry on in his spirit. And, to our sponsors with Alien Donut Films, Bill and Angela, thanks for your support. My producers, Stefan Santa Cruz and Amanda Armstrong, thanks so much, guys. And of course, to everybody out there, watching during these hard times, look out for each other, help each other out, and remember, we love you. Have a good night. Take care.